At 5:17 local time, the Combat Information Center aboard the American aircraft carrier went silent for half a second, not because nothing was happening, but because too much was happening at once. 6 new surface contacts had appeared on the radar screen almost simultaneously, spreading across the northern edge of the Strait of Hormuz like a blade opening in the dark. The sea outside was still black-blue under the last stretch of night, the horizon barely visible, the carrier's flight deck glowing under red and white work lights as sailors moved between parked aircraft and tied down equipment. Inside CIC, the screens told a different story. Contact 1 bearing 270, Contact 2 bearing 281, Contact 3 bearing 290, then 3 more staggered behind them. For 3 seconds, nobody called them Iranian. They were only surface contacts, unknown, fast enough to matter, organized enough to trigger attention. The carrier continued on course, steady through international waters, her massive hull pushing a white wake through the narrow corridor, and around her, the escort ships held formation, each one positioned where doctrine said it should be. Then the classification updated. Iranian naval vessels, 6 of them. The tactical display shifted, symbols changed, distances tightened, speed vectors extended across the screen like thin red needles pointing toward the carrier's projected path. The watch officer leaned closer. 6 surface contacts closing from the northwest, he said. Formation spread, range 12 nautical miles and decreasing. On the bridge, the captain did not raise his voice. He did not need to. That was the first thing younger sailors noticed in moments like this. The ship could weigh nearly 100 tons. The threat could be moving in from 6 different angles. The sea could become a chessboard in seconds, but the captain's voice stayed flat. Maintain course, log everything, bring the escorts to readiness. No one asked him to repeat it. The orders moved through the carrier like current through steel. On the flight deck, yellow shirts paused for half a beat as the word moved through their headsets. Below deck, sailors tightened into their stations. In CIC, radar operators began calling bearing changes in clipped bursts. The electronic warfare team started listening harder. The air picture, the surface picture, the carrier's own navigation track, all of it merged into one tightening problem. The Strait of Hormuz left no room for drama. It was narrow, crowded, and unforgiving. A carrier could not simply swerve away like a patrol boat. A sudden turn could create a navigational hazard with commercial tankers nearby. A sudden acceleration could look like escalation. A wrong radio call could become a headline before sunrise, so the carrier held. That was the first answer. The Iranian ships did not. At 5:19, Contact 1 increased speed, Contact 3 shifted outward, Contact 5 slowed slightly, then turned inward as if anchoring the rear of a forming arc. The pattern was not random. It was deliberate enough to be noticed and dangerous enough to be documented. CIC to bridge, the surface watch called. Contacts appear to be opening into a crescent formation. Lead vessel now bearing 276, range 10.8 nautical miles. The captain looked out over the dark water. Nothing could be seen with the naked eye yet. Only the black line of the horizon, only the carrier's own navigation lights, but on the screens below him, the ambush was already taking shape. The first radio hail went out. Unidentified Iranian naval vessels. This is a United States Navy warship operating in international waters. Maintain safe distance and state your intentions. Static answered. The message was repeated. Still nothing. At 5:21, the escort destroyer on the carrier's starboard side adjusted position by a few degrees, not a retreat, not a challenge, just a clean defensive correction, placing itself between the carrier and the widening Iranian arc. Its radar arrays were already awake. Its combat systems were listening, tracking, measuring. Then the Iranian formation tightened again. The lead ship cut across the carrier's forward sector, still miles away, but no longer moving parallel, its bow angled toward the projected track of the American carrier. Two vessels behind it moved wider, one to the north, one to the south, shaping the water ahead of the carrier into a narrowing lane. Inside CIC, the numbers came faster. Range 9.4 nautical miles, lead contact changing course, CPA decreasing, contact 2 and contact 4 opening lateral separation. The captain received the update without turning from the forward windows. Closest point of approach 6.2 nautical miles if they hold current speed and heading. A pause. Then another voice from CIC. Correction, lead contact increasing speed, CPA now under 5. That changed the air in the room, not visibly, not dramatically, but every sailor felt it, the kind of shift that happens when a maneuver stops being surveillance and starts becoming pressure. The carrier still did not turn away. That was the second answer. At 5:23, long-range cameras picked up the first visual outline, a low gray hull moving through the half-light, wake sharpening behind it, then another, then a third. The Iranian vessels were no longer just radar symbols. They were steel, engines, crews, and intent. On the flight deck, an MH-60R Seahawk sat chained and ready, its crew moving toward the aircraft. Nearby, deck crews checked tie-downs around parked fighters as the carrier pushed forward through the dark water. Enormous, steady, exposed by design but protected by layers no adversary could see all at once. Then the lead Iranian warship made its next move. At 5:24, it turned hard to starboard. Its new course cut directly across the carrier's path. CIC called it immediately. Bridge, lead contact is crossing the bow line. The captain's reply came without hesitation. Sound tactical alert. Escorts hold position. Do not deviate unless ordered. The carrier's forward gun mounts remained still. The escorts tracked. The cameras recorded. Every radar sweep, every course change, every second of silence was being captured. And outside, in the narrow water of Hormuz, 6 Iranian warships continued to close. By 5:24 and 30 seconds, the range had fallen below 8 nautical miles. The ambush had begun. At 5:24 and 30 seconds, the lead Iranian warship crossed the carrier's forward sector, not close enough to collide, close enough to force a decision. On the tactical display, its projected track cut across the American carrier's bow like a line drawn with intent. 2 more Iranian vessels widened to the carrier's starboard side, their wakes bending outward in pale arcs behind them. Another ship held back to the north. 2 more remained behind the lead element, moving slowly, almost patiently, as if waiting for the American formation to react first. The carrier did not. She stayed on course, a massive shadow moving through the Strait of Hormuz, flight deck lights burning against the early morning haze. Her escort destroyer shifted slightly farther forward on the starboard quarter, placing itself between the carrier and the nearest Iranian ship. It was a small movement, only a correction of position, but in naval terms, it said everything. You do not get a clean line to the carrier. Inside the Combat Information Center, the surface plot tightened by the second. Contact 1 crossing ahead, range 7.8 nautical miles, Contact 2 opening to starboard. Contact 3 matching speed. Contact 5 holding rear position. The watch team had stopped talking in complete sentences. They did not need them. Bearing, range, course, speed, that was the language now. Every number carried weight. Every update moved through the room with the same cold precision as a weapon being loaded. Then the first Iranian radar sweep hit the formation. It was not a missile lock, not yet, but it was no longer passive observation. The electronic warfare officer turned from his console. Bridge, CIC. We're receiving active surface search emissions from Contact 3. Low power, repeating pattern. The captain's eyes stayed on the dark water ahead. Log it. A second sweep followed, then a third. The Iranian ships were no longer just closing, they were measuring. The U.S. response came in layers. The destroyer's long-range optics locked on the lead vessel. The carrier's own sensors began recording the entire formation. Data flowed from ship to ship through encrypted links, building one shared picture across the strike group. Nobody fired. Nobody threatened, nobody panicked. That was the American posture, visible restraint, invisible readiness. At 5:26, the second radio hail went out, this time sharper. Iranian naval vessels. This is a United States Navy carrier strike group operating in international waters. Your maneuvers are unsafe. Maintain safe distance and state your intentions. The answer came back as static, then silence. On the flight deck, the MH-60R Seahawk's rotors began to turn, slowly at first, then faster, slicing the damp air above the carrier. Sailors crouched low and moved with practiced urgency around the aircraft. The helicopter was not being launched to attack, it was being launched to see, record, and apply pressure from above. In the Strait of Hormuz, sight matters, so does being seen. At 5:27, Contact 4 made the next move. It turned inward. The formation shifted from a loose crescent into something tighter, something shaped less like surveillance and more like containment. The lead Iranian ship still held its course across the carrier's projected path. Two others angled toward the starboard side. Another drifted wider, almost as if trying to stretch the American escort thin. CPA now 4.6 nautical miles, CIC reported. Contact 1 continuing across bowline. Contact 4 closing starboard sector. The captain finally turned toward the officer of the deck. Bring starboard escort to tactical screen position. No aggressive maneuvering. Aye, Captain. The order moved instantly. The destroyer ahead of the carrier adjusted again, cutting a clean defensive line between the Iranian arc and the carrier's starboard approach. Its hull knifed through the water, restrained but unmistakable. On its forward deck, the 5-inch gun remained still, but the cameras around it were alive. The message was not theatrical, it was procedural. We see you, we are recording you, we are ready. At 5:28, the Iranian lead ship transmitted for the first time. The voice came through broken, clipped and deliberate. U.S. vessel, alter course immediately. You are approaching restricted waters. The American reply took less than 5 seconds. Iranian vessel. This is a United States Navy warship conducting lawful transit in international waters. Maintain safe distance. Alter unsafe course now. No argument, no speech, no politics, just position, law, and warning. The Iranian ship did not alter course. Instead, Contact 3 increased speed. Its wake sharpened. White water pushed harder from its stern. Through the carrier's long-range camera, the vessel's silhouette became clearer in the morning gray. Crew were visible on deck, Movement near the aft section, a tarp or cover shifted in the wind, briefly exposing angular shapes along the rear deck line. Inside CIC, the imagery was magnified. A weapons officer leaned in. Possible launcher covers visible on Contact 3, cannot confirm. The captain received it cleanly. Do not classify hostile without confirmation. Continue recording. That was the difference between power and impulse. Iran was trying to compress time, force a turn, force a mistake, force the image of an American carrier changing course under pressure inside one of the world's most watched waterways. The U.S. Navy refused to give them that image. At 5:29, the Seahawk lifted off. It rose from the carrier's deck in a wash of rotor spray and exhaust, then banked low over the starboard side, its nose pointed toward the Iranian formation. Its sensor turret rotated, stabilizing on the lead vessel first, then sweeping across the others. Infrared, electro-optical, range finding, every frame time-stamped, every movement stored. Below it, the carrier kept moving, still steady, still on course. At 5:30, the Iranian formation tightened again. The lead ship was now crossing ahead. 2 ships were pressing starboard. 3 more sat behind them, holding a second line like a closing gate. CIC called the updated picture. 6 Iranian vessels remain maneuvering in coordinated pattern. Closest range now 4.1 nautical miles. Time to CPA 6 minutes. For the first time, the bridge went completely quiet. The captain looked at the display, then at the water. Then he gave the order. Set condition across the strike group. Keep weapons tight. No one fires unless fired upon. Across the carrier and her escorts, systems shifted, stations manned, sensors sharpened, defensive layers aligned. Still no visible panic, still no sudden turn. At 5:31, the Iranian lead ship crossed the carrier's bowline and began to angle toward the starboard quarter. That was no longer a pass, it was a squeeze. Then the electronic warfare console flashed again, a new signal, narrower, sharper, different from the surface search sweep. The officer's voice cut through CIC. "Bridge, we have a guidance radar emission from Contact 3. The captain did not move, but everyone in the room understood. The ambush line had just become a missile window. At 5:31 and 40 seconds, the tone inside the Combat Information Center changed. Not the alarms, the people. The first radar sweep had been broad. Surface search, pressure, signaling, something the Iranian vessels could explain away later as navigation, awareness, routine patrol behavior. This one was different. It came in narrow, controlled, and repeated from Contact 3, a sharper beam, a cleaner pattern, the kind of signal that made every sailor in CIC understand the same thing at the same moment. The Iranian ship was not just watching anymore, it was preparing a firing solution. "Bridge, CIC," the electronic warfare officer said. "Possible missile guidance radar from Contact 3, bearing 289, range 4.3 nautical miles." For 1 second, the bridge was quiet. Then the captain answered. "Confirm classification. Do not escalate on first emission." "Aye, Captain." That sentence mattered. Out in the Strait of Hormuz, mistakes could move faster than missiles. A false classification, a nervous trigger, a command spoken too quickly, any one of them could turn a dangerous encounter into a regional crisis before sunrise. The U.S. Navy trained for this exact space between threat and proof, and now the carrier was inside it. The carrier held course. The escort destroyer shifted forward another fraction, staying between the American flat top and the Iranian arc. On the tactical display, its symbol moved like a shield sliding into place. Its Aegis system was already tracking every Iranian vessel. Its cameras were recording. Its electronic warfare suite was listening for the next pulse. The second guidance sweep came 7 seconds later. Same bearing, same vessel, longer duration. Second emission confirmed. CIC called. Contact 3 remains active. The captain's voice stayed flat. Bring air defense to enhanced readiness. Weapons tight. No one asked what that meant. It meant every layer was awake. It meant radar operators tracked harder. It meant missile crews confirmed status without touching the line that would turn readiness into engagement. It meant the strike group was now operating inside a window where seconds mattered. Above the carrier, the MH-60R Seahawk pushed toward the Iranian formation at low altitude. Its rotors beat across the water as the aircraft dropped closer to visual range. The helicopter did not fly directly over the Iranian ships. It did not need to. It took position off the formation's flank, close enough to see, far enough to avoid giving Iran an excuse. The sensor operator locked the MX-20 camera onto contact 3. The image sharpened. A gray hull, forward mast, deck movement, heat signatures along the aft section, crew clustered near covered launch canisters, one figure moving quickly across the rear deck, another standing beside what looked like a folded cover or protective tarp. The Seahawk transmitted the feed back to the carrier. Inside CIC, the video appeared on a secondary screen. Visual activity aft on contact 3. The sensor team reported possible missile deck preparation, unable to confirm launch posture. The captain watched the image for 2 seconds. Keep recording. At 5:33, the carrier launched its first pair of FA-18 Super Hornets. The catapult fired with a white burst of steam across the deck. One jet shot forward into the dawn haze, afterburner burning orange against the gray water. The second followed moments later. Their launch was not retaliation. It was not a strike order. It was presence, visible, measured, unmistakable. The Iranian ships could see them climb. That was the point. The first Super Hornet banked wide over the carrier group, staying high enough to avoid provocation, but close enough to show the Iranian formation that the carrier was no longer only a ship on the water. It was an airfield at sea, awake and building options by the second. At 5:34, Contact 1 adjusted course again. The lead Iranian vessel that had crossed the bow now angled toward the carrier's starboard quarter. Contact 2 mirrored the movement from the outside. Contact 3 stayed central, still radiating intermittently. The remaining 3 Iranian warships held behind them, forming a second line across the water. It was no longer a simple close pass, it was a layered squeeze. CPA Contact 1 3.2 nautical miles, Contact 3 active again, Contact 2 increasing speed. The destroyer on the starboard side transmitted the next warning. Iranian naval vessels, your maneuvers are unsafe. Deactivate targeting radar and alter course immediately. No reply. Only the third radar pulse. This time, the emission held long enough for the carrier's system to classify the signal with higher confidence. The electronic warfare officer looked back. Contact 3 is maintaining guidance radar, pattern consistent with anti-ship missile fire control support. The words landed hard, but the room did not break. The U.S. Navy did not need noise to show urgency. It used procedure. Prepare electronic countermeasures, the captain ordered. No release unless authorized. The carrier's defensive systems shifted quietly beneath the skin of the ship. The escorts tightened their own posture, The destroyer's combat system assigned tracks. The cruiser, farther out in the formation, expanded the air picture. Every sensor fed the same network. Every network built the same conclusion. If a missile left the rail, the strike group would know. At 5:36, the Iranian ship fired something. A bright flare rose from Contact 3's aft deck and burned upward into the pale sky. For 2 seconds, nobody outside the systems knew what it was. On the bridge, sailors froze without moving. On the flight deck, heads turned toward the flash. In CIC, the radar operators waited for the track that would decide everything. No inbound missile track appeared, no sea-skimming contact, no acceleration signature. Signal flare, CIC confirmed, no missile launch. Repeat, no missile launch. The captain did not react. Continue tracking. But the flare had done what it was meant to do. It injected uncertainty, it compressed time, it forced the American systems to prove themselves under pressure. The Super Hornets adjusted overhead. One climbed higher, extending the visual envelope. The other held a wide orbit behind the carrier group. The Seahawk continued recording Contact 3, its camera locked tight on the aft deck. Then the Iranian formation changed again. At 5:38, 2 ships broke from the rear line. Contacts 5 and 6 accelerated at the same time, turning away from the carrier and toward the American escort destroyer guarding the starboard side. Their wakes sharpened instantly. The surface plot redrew itself. Bridge, CIC, 2 Iranian vessels splitting off, new heading toward starboard escort. The captain looked at the screen. The carrier had been the center of the ambush. Now the trap was moving. "Alert the escort," he said. "They may be trying to isolate her." Outside, the carrier pushed forward through Hormuz, steady and immense. Above, the jets circled. Ahead, the Iranian leadership held its line. And to starboard, 2 Iranian warships were now charging toward the destroyer. The ambush had changed shape. The carrier was not the only target. At 5:38, the 2 Iranian warships broke formation. Their bows turned hard toward the American destroyer, guarding the carrier's starboard side. Their wakes sharpened immediately, white water spreading behind them as their engines pushed harder through the narrow sea lane. Inside the Combat Information Center aboard the carrier, the tactical display changed shape in seconds. What had been a crescent around the carrier became something more dangerous, a split maneuver. 2 Iranian ships pressing toward the escort, one ship holding missile radar posture near the center, the lead vessel still ahead of the carrier's bowline, the remaining Iranian warships hanging back like a second gate across Hormuz. The captain saw it immediately. "They're trying to pull the screen apart," he said. No one argued. That was the move. Force the destroyer to respond, make her turn, make her expose the carrier's starboard side. If the escort broke position, even briefly, the Iranian formation would get the image it wanted, an American carrier group disrupted in the Strait of Hormuz. The destroyer did not break, she held the line. Her bow cut through the water at steady speed, angled just enough to remain between the Iranian vessels and the carrier, not charging, not retreating, blocking. Her Aegis system tracked every contact, her cameras were locked, her electronic warfare suite was listening to every radar pulse coming off the Iranian formation. The carrier transmitted across the strike group network. "Starboard escort, maintain screen, do not overcommit, air assets are covering." The reply came back calm. "Roger, holding screen." Above the formation, the first FA-18 Super Hornet widened its orbit and moved into a visible position over the Iranian line. The second remained farther back, higher, quieter, feeding the tactical picture without turning the sky into a threat display. The MH-60R Seahawk stayed low off the Iranian flank, sensor ball fixed on Contact 3, the ship that had emitted the guidance radar. Every frame was recorded, every movement was time-stamped, every Iranian maneuver was becoming evidence. At 5:40, Contact 5 increased speed again. Contact 5 now 27 knots, CIC called, heading toward starboard escort, range 2.9 nautical miles. The American destroyer answered with a small rudder correction, only a few degrees, enough to deny the angle, not enough to look aggressive. That was the knife edge. In open water, space gives commanders time. In Hormuz, space disappears. A few thousand yards can vanish in minutes. The difference between resolve and escalation can be one turn of the wheel. The Iranian ship kept coming. The destroyer's bridge issued a warning. Iranian naval vessel, this is United States Navy warship. Your approach is unsafe. Alter course immediately. Static, then a burst of radio noise, then silence again. Högonian penenterdor Griem. At 5:41, the Seahawk's sensor operator zoomed in on Contact 3. The aft deck was still active. Men moved around the covered missile area. One crewman pulled back what looked like a protective panel. Another pointed toward the American destroyer. The guidance radar pulsed again, shorter this time, but clear. Contact 3 active, CIC reported. Emission directed across formation. Possible support to Contacts 5 and 6. The captain's eyes narrowed. They're coordinating. That was the moment the ambush began to work against Iran. The Iranian formation had revealed too much. Their lead ship had shown the crossing angle. Contact 3 had exposed the radar behavior. Contacts 5 and 6 had shown the pressure maneuver against the escort. Their second line had shown where the trap was supposed to close. Now the U.S. Navy had the whole shape of it. The carrier strike group began to answer without firing. The starboard destroyer held the blocking line. The cruiser farther off expanded its radar coverage. The Super Hornet overhead moved into a position where every Iranian bridge crew could see its silhouette against the dawn sky. The Seahawk shifted slightly closer, still outside direct overhead passage, but close enough for its presence to be felt, and the carrier kept moving. That was the center of the response. The giant did not flinch. At 5:43, Contact 6 made a sharper turn than expected, trying to cross behind the American destroyer. The move looked aggressive on radar, but from the air it looked worse. The ship's bow cut across the destroyer's projected wake, attempting to compress the American escort from two angles. The destroyer made one correction, clean, controlled, perfectly logged. It denied the crossing without giving up the screen. Inside CIC, the surface warfare coordinator spoke without looking away from his console. Starboard escort, still between carrier and Iranian line, screen intact. For the first time in almost 10 minutes, the Iranian formation hesitated. Contact 5 reduced speed by 2 knots, then 3. Contact 6 stopped its crossing turn and steadied. It was subtle, but not invisible. Nothing was invisible now. The Seahawk saw it. The destroyer saw it. The carrier saw it. The F/A-18s overhead saw the wakes begin to lose their sharpness. Then the American warning went out again, this time across open frequencies. Iranian naval vessels, your maneuvers are unsafe and escalatory. Your actions are being recorded. Alter course immediately and maintain safe distance. A long silence followed. Then Contact 3's radar changed. The narrow guidance pattern faded. The surface search sweep remained, but the sharper tone disappeared from the electronic warfare display. Guidance emissions ceased, CIC reported. No one celebrated. The Iranian ships were still close, still maneuvering, still dangerous, but the pressure had shifted. At 5:45, Contact 1, the lead vessel that had crossed ahead of the carrier, began a slow turn away from the bow line. It did not retreat dramatically. It did not run. It simply widened the angle by a few degrees, the kind of maneuver that lets a commander save face while backing out of a failed intercept. The carrier held course, the destroyer held screen, the aircraft held orbit. The U.S. Navy had not fired a shot, but it had forced the trap to reveal itself, then squeezed it with presence, sensors, and discipline. At 5:46, Contact 5 reduced speed again. Contact 6 followed. The Iranian second line began to stretch and lose shape. What had looked like a coordinated ambush 8 minutes earlier now looked uneven, uncertain, and exposed under American surveillance. Then, at 5:47, the first Iranian warship turned clearly away. Its wake curved north. A second followed. The circle around the carrier began to break. But one Iranian vessel did not move. Contact 3 remained near the center of the waterway, still holding a dangerous angle, still close enough to matter, still the ship whose missile radar had come alive minutes earlier. CIC marked it immediately, Contact 3 maintaining course. The captain looked at the display. 5 ships were loosening, one was not. Outside, the carrier continued through Hormuz, steady, unmoved, and ahead, the final Iranian warship stayed on the line. At 5:47, 5 Iranian warships began to widen their distance. One did not. On the carrier's tactical display, Contact 3 remained fixed near the center of the waterway, still angled toward the American formation, still close enough to keep every sensor pointed in its direction. Its earlier guidance radar had gone quiet, but nobody inside the Combat Information Center treated that as safety. Quiet did not mean harmless. Quiet meant waiting. Contact 3 maintaining course, CIC reported, range 3.8 nautical miles, speed steady. The captain stood beside the command display, watching the track. Any renewed emissions, negative guidance radar, surface search only, deck activity? The Seahawk answered from the air, still seeing movement aft, no confirmed launch posture. The captain gave a short nod, keep eyes on it. Outside, the Strait of Hormuz had begun to brighten. The first line of dawn showed behind the low haze, turning the water metallic gray. The American carrier continued forward, massive and steady, her flight deck alive with controlled motion. Above her, the 2 Super Hornets held their orbits. To starboard, the escort destroyer remained in its blocking position, bow cutting cleanly through the water between the carrier and the final Iranian ship. The other Iranian vessels had not disappeared, they had only loosened. 2 had turned north, 2 had slowed. One held wide off the carrier's quarter, still watching, still close enough to remind everyone that the standoff was not over. But the ambush was broken. Only Contact 3 remained on the line. At 5:49, the destroyer transmitted again. Iranian naval vessel, this is United States Navy warship. Your current course remains unsafe. Alter course immediately and maintain safe distance from this carrier strike group. This time, the reply came after 6 seconds, broken English, low signal, controlled tone. United States vessel, we are conducting lawful patrol. You will adjust course. The American response was immediate. Iranian vessel, negative. United States Navy is conducting lawful transit in international waters. Your maneuvers have been recorded. Alter course now. No anger, no negotiation, no weakness, just the line. On the Seahawk's feed, the Iranian bridge crew could be seen moving behind the windows. One sailor stepped onto the outer bridge wing with binoculars. Another looked aft toward the launcher area. The ship's wake remained straight for another 20 seconds. Then it shortened. Contact 3 reducing speed, CIC called, down 2 knots. The captain did not respond at first. He waited because 1 knot was noise, 2 could be caution, but sustained deceleration meant something else. It meant the Iranian commander was calculating his way out. At 5:51, Contact 3 reduced speed again. The bow angle shifted by a few degrees, not enough to call it a retreat, enough to matter. The Seahawk pilot held position off the vessel's flank, steady and visible. Its sensor turret remained locked on the aft deck. The Super Hornet overhead crossed the horizon line at safe distance, its silhouette sharp against the morning light. It did not dive, it did not threaten, it simply passed where every Iranian sailor topside could see it. The message was clean, the carrier was not alone. At 5:52, Contact 3 turned 5 degrees north. Inside CIC, no one celebrated. The surface warfare coordinator only marked the new course and waited for confirmation. Possible course change, he said, stand by. Another 10 seconds, then another degree, then another. The projected collision geometry disappeared from the display. Contact 3 opening CPA, CIC reported. Closest point now increasing, range 4.2 nautical miles. For the first time since the initial radar bloom, the tactical picture began to breathe. The carrier continued through Hormuz without changing course. That was the victory. No missile had been fired, no warning shot had cracked across the water, no American ship had turned away under pressure. Iran had tried to create a moment, 6 warships closing around a U.S. carrier, a narrow sea lane, radar pulses, radio silence, a formation built to force hesitation. Instead, the U.S. Navy had turned the entire maneuver into a recorded sequence of evidence. Every Iranian course change, every radar emission, every deck movement, every refusal to answer, every unsafe crossing angle, the trap had become a file. At 5:55, Contact 3 completed the turn. Its bow moved away from the carrier's projected path. Its wake curved north, joining the widening pattern of the other Iranian ships. The ring was gone. The pressure line was broken. The final vessel was no longer closing. Carrier secure, CIC reported. The captain looked once more at the display. Maintain watch. Recover aircraft when clear. The order moved quietly through the strike group. The Seahawk stayed on station for several more minutes, recording the Iranian vessels as they widened distance. The Super Hornets held above until the carrier had cleared the narrowest stretch. The starboard destroyer did not relax her screen until every Iranian track showed separation and no renewed emissions. By 6:02, the carrier strike group was still moving east, same course, same speed, same formation. Behind it, the Iranian ships remained on radar, scattered now, no longer forming a crescent, no longer closing a gate across the water. Their speed had dropped, their spacing had opened, their window had closed. On the bridge, the captain finally stepped away from the tactical display. There was no speech, no victory announcement, no applause, just logs, confirmations, and the quiet discipline of a crew that understood what had almost happened. Below, CIC archived the sensor data. Electronic warfare logs were packaged. Infrared video from the Seahawk was marked and stored. Radio calls were transcribed. Track histories were sent up the chain to Fifth Fleet. The official line would be simple: unsafe Iranian naval maneuver, de-escalated, carrier secure. But everyone who watched the screens knew the deeper truth. 6 Iranian warships had tried to turn Hormuz into a trap. They had tried to compress space, force a reaction, and make the world's largest symbol of American naval power alter course under pressure. The carrier never did. The U.S. Navy did not win that morning by firing first. It won by refusing to blink. By 6:02, the sea ahead was open again. The aircraft carrier kept moving through Hormuz, steady, untouched, and exactly where it intended to be.